Welcome to The Bone, the podcast that goes deeper. Here we cut through the noise and get straight to the core of the issues that matter. From real stories to raw truths, we dive deep into the conversations that shape our world and challenge our thinking. We're not afraid to dig in and get to the marrow of it all. Whether it's life, culture, or business in sports medicine, we're here to break it down raw and real. No filters, no fluff, just to the bone. With your host, Shelby Daly, we're getting to the bone. This is a clinically pressed, approved CEU podcast. Find the quiz to gain credit at clinicallypressed.org/courses. Clinically Pressed Company, making the complicated simple through results that give back. Find out more at clinicallypressed.org. Let's get started.
Before we get started, I want to do a quick introduction for my guest today, Dr. Colleen Hacker. She's an internationally recognized speaker and mental performance consultant. Dr. Hacker has served as a member of the United States coaching staff for 6 Olympic Games as a mental skills coach and performance psychology specialist. Dr. Hacker began her national team service in 1995, working with the U.S. women's national soccer team, and most recently served on the gold medal staff for USA ice hockey at the 2018 Olympic Games. During her 12-year tenure with USA Soccer, won their first gold medal awarded in women's soccer at the 1996 Olympic Games, followed by a dramatic overtime victory over China in the historic 1999 World Cup, securing USA's second gold medal. With multiple World Cups under her belt in hockey and soccer, Dr. Hacker also served as a mental skills coach for the Olympic field hockey team as well. Dr. Hacker has received numerous professional awards, including the Distinguished Professional Practice Award from the AASP as the first woman to do so. And she was also named by ESPNW as one of the 30 women in the country who changed the way sports are played. She has published widely in professional journals and books. Her work has been featured in Jerry Longen's book, Girls of Summer, Lauren Gregg's The Champion Within, Michelle Akers' book, The Game and the Glory, Brandi Chastain's It's Not About the Bra, and Tom Ferry's book, Game On, The All-American Race to Make Champions of Our Children. Her publications and presentations have impacted audience both at the academic and corporate level. Dr. Hacker's first book, Catch Them Being Good, has been a mainstay in coaching education. Now Dr. Hacker's newest book, Achieving Excellence, Mastering Mindset for Peak Performance in Sports and Life, is widely used by corporate leaders and athletes alike. Her insights into topics such as the psychology of excellence, mental toughness, team building, growth through adversity, and power of choice strikes a chord with organizations and corporate audience both nationally and internationally. With more than 30 years' experience in higher education, she is a professor in kinesiology, specializing in sports and performance psychology in Tacoma, Washington. Dr. Hacker has conducted extensive applied research in the field of sports psychology, with particular emphasis on peak performance, team building, leadership, mental toughness, and psychological skills training for excellence. This is where I met her at Pacific Lutheran University, where I studied under her in her course on team building for high performers. Through many educational projects in my undergraduate career, her gratitude assignment has stuck with me since I took her course over 10 years ago, and this is why I'm hosting her as a guest today. There is so much more that she has accomplished that I cannot fit this into this whole introduction. She is someone you should look into for her teachings and achievements to get a better picture of all that she has done for athletics worldwide. Now on to the show. Okay, today we have Dr. Hacker. She was one of my professors at Pacific Lutheran University. The course I took from her was team building. And recently I started my doctorate of athletic training, and we were talking about creating culture within your department. And somebody had talked about bringing resilience to their culture. And I had thought about, how do you actually do that? Are you born with it, or is it a skill that you can actually learn? As I did a little bit more research, came up that gratitude was a way to help create resilience in your lifestyle. And it had brought me back to a project that Dr. Hacker had us do in our team building class, doing a gratitude journal. So I thought I'd have her on today to talk a little bit about gratitude, grit, and resilience. So welcome on, Dr. Hacker. It's great to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to be here. I love learning about and seeing you continuing your academic and professional career and pursuing your doctorate in athletic training. I'm just thrilled and proud of you. That's what we want for our students. So, brava, Shelby, brava.
Thank you so much. So could you kind of define gratitude, grit, and resilience, and maybe how they're interconnected?
Sure. There are numerous definitions. Grit and resilience are two different things, so I don't want to conflate them. So I'm going to focus on resilience and then how gratitude might interplay with that. But resilience, again, there's multiple operational definitions of resilience in the literature, but I'm really fond of the idea that when life is disrupted by crisis, some people see opportunities for change, for development, for action, for introspection, for growth. In other words, resilience is an opportunity. Like, our resilience isn't tested when everything's going well. Resilience isn't required when we have what we want, are getting what we want, and life is not disrupted. Mm-hmm. When life is disrupted by any number of crises, it could be health, relationship, the political landscape, our housing, food insecurity. I mean, the injury, the list is endless. It's how do you respond to these crises? And there's multiple pathways to respond productively and purposefully to these life crises. And I'm gonna answer sort of your setup for the question. I think of resilience, and I think the literature supports me. Resilience is a little bit like strength. Each of us is born with a different amount of strength. Like, you might be stronger than me, I might be stronger than him, but all of us can get stronger, the ER. All of us can develop our strength by following science-based, evidence-based protocols. And the same thing with resilience. Resilience is about so much more than, pull yourself up by the bootstraps or, never give up. Sometimes giving up, I like to think of it as changing course. Purposefully changing course is some of the wisest things we can do. So I think our language becomes important. But the first thing I want to say is resilience is a skill. It is not a trait. It is not a characteristic. We develop resilience or not, right? And the key is to remember that there's these resiliency opportunities. In my book, Achieving Excellence, I talk about mental toughness moments. And MTMs, mental toughness moments, are one of those opportunities to develop resilience. So I think the first thing for the listeners is to understand that you have to recognize that there are these mental toughness moments. There are these resilience moments. I think of them as crossroads. Which direction are you going to go? Are you going to go left? Are you going to go right? Are you going to just stay stuck and stopped? Or are you going to go forward? And those are individual decisions and individual choices, but we can develop resiliency. We can develop it. I know that the focus today is on gratitude. And I had the good fortune of presenting at the National Institutes of Health with some of the nation, and I'd argue some of the world's leading scholars on happiness and gratitude. And over and over again, the research shows that gratitude, the foundation of gratitude, is a foundational quality. It's both a skill and a mindset. We don't do it automatically, right? there's what's called a negativity bias in human beings. It's what kept us alive. So the negativity bias has value. Put your hand on a hot stove, you're going to get burned. Okay, remember, don't do that. Or using the frequently used cave dweller example is you go into a cave in early spring and you get attacked or chased by a bear. It's good to have a negativity bias. It's good to pay attention to that. But you have to be aware that that's sort of built in, this negativity bias. And gratitude is an antidote to that. So again, I don't know if your listeners are focused on, a short-term injury or a long-term injury or a season-ending injury or a career-ending injury. Those are different levels of escalation. But every one of those four, and obviously with elite athletes, I deal with all four of those all the time. Brandy Chastain, World Cup famous goal-scoring penalty taker, 13 knee surgeries. Right now, Kristen Press at Angel City, 4 knee surgeries after a single ACL repair. So we don't have to look very far to say short-term, season-ending, long-term, career-ending. That's a mental toughness moment. That's a resiliency moment. And I want to say that gratitude isn't the only, but it is a major mover. It is a major motivator to determine which direction we're going to go. And the research is really clear on gratitude. The more your listeners get into the gratitude literature, I think you'd read a handful of primary research articles and say, oh my gosh, this should be part of my daily life. This should be part of my life practice. So an individual can focus on being grateful for what we call the little things. And probably in your paper, as I write to students today, pretty quickly you come to realize there's no little things, right? Like turning on tap water and getting warm water. I went with a national team down to Argentina, and we only had a few hours a day where we got warm water. So if we weren't at the hotel when there was warm water, you were taking a cold shower. All of a sudden, a warm shower, which we take for granted, becomes a big thing. So all that I'm saying is the more you understand the gifts, the opportunities, the blessings, depending on your orientation that we have, you start to realize that there's no little things. So you can be grateful for things. You can be grateful for people. You can be grateful for opportunities, going to college, wearing the clothes that you want, right? I mean, you can go micro or macro. So people, places, things, opportunities, environments. I will say that in terms of injury, and I don't know if this is your focus, but for my professional Olympic clients, injury is often, if they're resilient, a tremendous growth opportunity. And they'll talk about it as a growth opportunity. Maybe an athlete never plugged into mental skills training until they were injured. And now all of a sudden they're watching game film to use imagery. They're practicing somatic control of breathing, relaxation, strategies. Maybe they've developed a mindfulness practice that they never did before. Reaching out to social support. A lot of athletes just come in the training room, get treatment, exit the treatment room. So an injury can provide an opportunity to connect with the athletic training staff so that it's not just treatments. I stress this so much with the health services and health related groups is you're not just treating the injury, you're treating the person. So how can you treat the person if you don't know the person? What are their goals? What are their hopes? What are their dreams? What are their fears? We know in sports psychology, the literature is pretty clear, Shelby, that athletes are actually physically ready to return to competition before they're psychologically or emotionally ready. And yet we frequently, maybe FIU is different, but we frequently don't train athletic trainers deeply in mental skills training, right? It's about Injury prevention, injury treatment, prehab, rehab. It's like, what about the person? What about the person? So,
Definitely.
yeah, you know from class, and I don't know if it's helpful to talk about it, why that assignment, but that assignment wasn't fluff. That assignment wasn't, gee, I have no other way to evaluate undergraduate students. It's really steeped in science, steeped in literature. And I literally see the transformation over the course of 2-3 months of our students when they're practicing daily habits of gratitude. And paired with that is anonymous and random acts of kindness, right? And what I try to focus with our students is it's about impact, not the pat on the back. That's why I require it to be anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stop there and see if there are things that you want to explore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is where it's a weird dynamic of athletic training. Obviously, we're working with the athletes, and through the difficult times of an injury, the angle I was trying to kind of get was the team building aspect of working with your colleagues and the business aspects of, well, how can you become more resilient when, an athlete isn't progressing necessarily through their rehab. And we seem to take a lot of, we think that we did something wrong, basically, and not getting them back. So it's kind of trying to bring that mindset back to how can we not hold ourselves so accountable when there are other factors that are in the mix. We have a big problem with burnout right now in athletic training, and trying to bring that in with the resilience and the gratitude, and how can you move on. And obviously we care very deeply for our athletes, but how can we take a step back and not go down a hole of no return, basically. That's what I'm kind of trying to address with this.
Well, obviously, two very different questions. So I'm going
Yeah.
to try to address both. We talk to athletes all the time about trust the process, move beyond wins and losses, right? It's about the process. It's about effort, controlling the controllables, my attitude, my response to errors, my work rate. Am I coachable? Am I a good teammate? Right? There's 5 off the bat. Not did you win or lose. Respectfully, I'd say the same thing to athletic trainers. When I hear you pose that question, it makes me think of a very narrow definition of, well, we take it personally when our athletes aren't progressing. And I'd say, hold on a second. Are they progressing? Because if the metric is, did they return to play? Then that's like win or lose. That I would ask athletic trainers to stretch and broaden their definition of impact, because impact might be an increased range of motion. Impact might be a reduction in pain. Impact might be fewer treatments a week. Impact might be longer play. Listen, if anyone, and I'm a runner, so I've experienced this just this fall, as a matter of fact. If you're a runner, I had a knee issue and I couldn't run for weeks. You're just grateful to be able to run and run longer. I may or may not return to pre-injury levels. That can't be the metric for impact or no impact. Well, are you doing what you did before? No. Well, then I've failed. We've got to respectfully really understand all the different metrics in health, improvement, in development, in impact that athletic trainers can have beyond just, did I get them back or whatever that might be. I don't know if I've given you enough examples, but I think we have to think more broadly on how we define success and how we define impact. And especially when physiology is involved. Every athlete wants to return from injury on an up slide. They're just going to, every day, they're going to get better. Every athlete. Then you say to them, is that realistic? No, it's not realistic. But this is the only model they have. So it's understanding that we may want this ramp upwards, but this is how injuries happen. This is how recovery happens. It's inelegant. It's unpredictable. There are improvements, backslide, stagnation. That's physiology. And it's probably why I'm not teaching in the athletic training department, but I say, physiology is going to physiology. It doesn't matter that my teammate came back this fast, or that this person we consume online so much. This person came back this fast. This person did. That's not my body. That's not my ligaments. That's not my joints. That's not my surgery. That's not my physiology timetable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've got to accept that athletes are playing the comparison game between what they see online and what they hear and what they read. And despite what they intellectually know, they want their comeback to be on a ramp up. And we have to normalize the complexity of injury recovery. And so for some athletes, that might redefine success. Maybe you're not going to have the professional career you wanted, but you're going to be able to run and teach your children, how to ride a bike and run all over the park, which is better than not being able to do that. Like, look at opportunities, look at capabilities.
Yeah.
Now, the burnout rate, and athletic training's not alone. Look at the burnout rate in medical doctors. Look at the alarming medical rate, burnout rate in veterinarian medicine. This is ubiquitous. And it's multi-causal. If anybody tells you, here's why people are burning out, don't listen to them, right? It's multi-causal. It's not monocausal. But one of the first things I'd look at is burnout is generally related to a focus on liabilities, problems, and issues rather than capabilities and opportunities. And I'm gonna just tell you a true story from ophthalmology, but think of it in athletic training. And I said to this professional, I said, I'm never going to forget this conversation. So I go into a healthcare facility like anybody who wears contacts or glasses does on an annual basis, get fitted for glasses. And I'm just making small talk. I'm like, oh, this must get so boring because you're sitting there and you hear like 27, 28, 29. All that I kept thinking is, oh my God, this guy just does this for 8 hours a day. Like, oh, that would cause me burnout. That would be boring to me. Oh, the thought of getting up and doing it tomorrow. Like, how do you do it? And he was genuinely confused by me asking that. He goes, I'm not fitting glasses all day. I help people see. Right? He pulled back the lens because if all that he's doing is that better? Is that better? Is that fit? Does that fit? Oh my God, that is so boring. That's so repetitive. That narrow focus, I think, would lead anybody to boredom and burnout. He pulled the lens wider and saying, I'm helping people recover. I'm helping people, as opposed to, oh my God, I've been here since 6 a.m. I'm not going to get home till 11 p.m. You're focused on the liabilities. And so I'm not saying that's not hard, but first of all, you shouldn't be working 14-hour days without a break, without joy, without laughter, without social support, without getting outside and seeing the sunshine. In other words, I would work with those professionals to say, how can we bring control and choice and agency into that day? Like you have the power to change the dynamics of your job. You're not stuck with that. And I feel like people don't really look at those capabilities and opportunities. They're focused on the liabilities and the drawbacks. And again, just that notion, pull the lens wider to look at what you have, who you have, where you get to work, who you get to work with, what you get to do. Like, think beyond job titles and think about professional service.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can be extremely motivating. So I'm trying to answer both of those questions. I don't know how that fits with what you're studying, what you're working on, what your program focus is.
Yeah. No, that was a perfect answer of, that goes with the gratitude journal that we did as an assignment. And I think that's why it stuck with me was when you're in college, you're so narrow-minded of, I need to get my project done. I need to get my assignment done. I need to get good grades, be social, maybe get some sleep. And then once you start listing the things that are around you and what may not everybody has access to, I think it kind of brings down that somatic response a bit, and you realize I'm doing okay, you know?
Yeah, and it really does. And you know what's changed? Nothing in that person's life. Absolutely nothing's changed, but their focus and their attention. And so you shift your focus, you shift your perspective, and all of a sudden the external world changes. I do. It wasn't my idea. It comes from Dr. Sonia Lubomirsky. At the time when I met her, she was at Stanford. She may still be at Stanford. But I really lift up her work in the gratitude and happiness sphere. She's done amazing work. But I based our assignment on primary research and evidence-based. And so I'd like to share it with your listeners to say it's a simple habit to create. And I'll hear from students, oh, I did this in high school. Well, if you did it in high school, I think that's it. I mean, yeah, do it when you're 17. You never have to do it again. It's like, I don't even know what to say to that. It's not something you do, or I shouldn't say it's not just something you do once. It's a lifestyle. It's a mindset. It's a habit. I live a life of gratitude. I do it on a daily basis, and I don't get a grade for it, and nobody assigned it to me. So briefly, what I have our students do and the name of the course is Team Building for High Performing Teams. One of their 4 major assignments is for 14 consecutive days. Students list the date and 5 things, people, opportunities that they're grateful for, but they can never repeat them. So 14 times 5 tells you after 2 weeks, they're going, holy cow, I never realized that. And when they write their reflection piece, they say what you said. Oh, I was focused on my bad grades. I was focused on, I have no time. I'm focused on this issue. I'm focused on due dates, focused on requirements. What we did is broaden that lens and say, let's think about people, places, things, environment, opportunities for which we can be grateful. So 14 consecutive days, 5 different, and you've got to write it down. You know my phrase, ink what you think. You got to write it down. And then every 2 or 3 days, we challenge students to do random, which means something you wouldn't normally do. If you would normally mow your neighbor's lawn, you can't count that because that's already part of your behavior. So something you wouldn't normally do, random, and it has to be anonymous. So no one's in a position to thank you. One of my students went all through the Target parking lot and picked up carts, right? And he's like, I would never do that. I just push my cart, get in my car. He went around the whole parking lot of that store. Yes, there's somebody whose job it is, but he made it his job. You know, we had somebody who wrote notes anonymously to students at the university and put it on their windshield to give them hope and inspiration. You have to sort of get in the mindset of cohabitating, but we have a lot of students here that live in a house of 3, 4, 5 students. And so they have turns, like you have Monday night dishes, you have Tuesday night dishes, you have Wednesday night dishes. So when none of their roommates were home, they did all of the vacuuming, cleaned the bathrooms and washed the dishes. And the person comes home whose night it was and goes, oh my gosh, who did this? Right? I had another student who made little snack bags for one of our sport teams here, put them anonymously. He typed the note so they wouldn't know his handwriting, put it in the guy's locker room. And he just said it was the coolest thing to go to the team meeting and see them opening their packs and going, who did this? Like they have no idea. Yeah. So for 14 days, every 2 to 3 days, do an anonymous random acts of kindness. And it changes it when no one's in a position to thank you. It changes it when you don't get the pat on the back, you really do it for impact. And that's one where students and gratitude, they have trouble at first. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe all the things I have to be grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And my hope is that it sticks. And I look at how long ago you graduated and that you reached out, more than a decade later. It tells you that that assignment was sticky.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to say to folks is, don't make it a one-off. Don't make it an assignment. Don't make it oh yeah, I did that when I was in grad school. Yeah, I did that when I was doing my PhD. Do it as a mindset. Do it as a habit. Do it as a lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, and I think coming out of that assignment, it made you more mindful in the moment. So, smelling the roses, taking a look at what you're grateful for and making sure you're spending more time with it ultimately,
Right.
if it's something that makes you happy. And I think that's where we live in such a fast-paced world. We don't really take advantage of those moments. And going back to our example of patient care, that may be why some of these outcomes, or you're not feeling that you're progressing the athlete fast enough, is because you're not actually paying attention to the little details that they're actually achieving. So
Right.
that was, one of the takeaways I took from that assignment was just stop and look at the roses, look at the color, and how does that make you feel? And I think that helps with the mental stability in a difficult job or difficult situation ultimately of, there's still something to look forward to, not all the negative that's surrounding you.
Right. You did a really good job combining gratitude with a focus on the now. There's research that shows over 60% of our thoughts are in the past and in the future. So very few of us are right now. We're thinking about something that didn't go well, somebody that missed their appointment, somebody that was difficult to work with, a failure, or we're like, oh my God, I've got 6 more hours here. Oh my gosh, I've got that patient coming. Oh my gosh, I've got to do this, and I don't like doing that. So we're in the past and we're in the future, and we spend very little time in the now, and gratitude can bring us back to the now.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously we'll wrap this up with, there's journaling. That's what we did for the assignment. What other ways would you suggest that people can try to be more mindful to the things they're grateful for around them?
Yeah, I mean, I do think you need to ink what you think. So I'm big on journaling. But one of the things I say over and over and over again, Shelby, is unexpressed gratitude is the same as not feeling it. So when you say, what are other things we can do? In every case, express it. We don't express gratitude because we're afraid it's going to sound cheesy. We're afraid we're not going to do it the right way. We're afraid we're going to say something wrong. First of all, express your gratitude. Like, make that a habit. Like, somebody gives you good service, say, I really appreciate you taking time to do that. Or, oh, you made a difficult situation fun or tolerable. Express it. Express it. So you can journal yourself. But what I want to push people to do is share their care, express their gratitude in writing, right? I tease students. It's like I get these long emails requesting a letter of recommendation. I spend hours writing it, and then I get a thank you, Dr. Hacker. It's like, wow, how long did that take you? 5 seconds to say thank you, Dr. Hacker? Not much of an investment. And it's not like I need it. It's just saying when you want something, all of a sudden you're invested. How about looking, being aware, and expressing your gratitude to people? And it can be in thought, word, deed. I came back from my last day of teaching. My favorite flower is tulips. And anonymously, I came back to my office and there's 4 tulips on my office door and just said, I know this is your favorite flower. Like, action, right? Notes, actions, letters, small gifts, a big hug. There's so many ways to express gratitude. The key is to express it.
Mm-hmm.
And not just think it.
Definitely. Well, I want to keep you on track for your day, and I do appreciate you coming on. This is a great conversation, And I love that we were able to continue the conversation 10 years later.
I know. I agree. Good luck with everything. And hopefully there were some good takeaways for folks.
Yep. And you can have your students listen to this so they know what the real impact of this project is.
Well, you'll have to send that link. Send that link, Shelby.
I will. Perfect.
All right. Take care.
That's it for today's episode of To the Bone. I hope we've sparked some new thoughts, challenged your perspectives, or simply reminded you to dig a little deeper. Remember, life isn't just about what's on the surface. Sometimes you've got to cut deeper and get to the bone of what really matters. To the Bone podcast is a product of Daily LLC. It is hosted and produced by Shelby Daly, ATC, and Randy Daly. No clinical decision-making should be based solely on one source. While care is taken to ensure accuracy, factual errors can be present. For more on the show, visit www.tothebonepodcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Get involved in the conversation. You can find us at www.tothebonepodcast.com. Drop us topic suggestions or be a potential guest. We're all about connecting with you, our listeners. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep cutting deep.